Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Player Zone YouTube channel and welcome back to the Premier League prediction show for match day 6. We're working our way through quarter point of the season. It's flown past the first few weeks. Another massive match day to come. We start the weekend at the G-Tech. Brentford and Manchester United. Can United finally get the win away at Brentford? The big game of the weekend says Newcastle host the Arsenal as well. And Liverpool, the top of the table side, can they go and win away at Crystal Palace, which has proved to be one of the toughest places to go in the recent times in the Premier League. Looking back to last week and our prediction points. Didn't do too badly, but trying to back off from a week of 14 points, we're always going to struggle. Picked up 7 of our prediction points there to make our total 38 after the 5 match weeks so far. So not too bad, but needing a very, very high score this season to beat our total of last year. If you're new to the channel here early on in the season and wondering what the hell is this point system, 3 points correct scoreline, 1 point for the correct result, 0 points for neither. You can track along at home with me, share your predictions, I can share mine, and we can compare how we go from week to week. With that being said, ladies and gents, let's get straight into it for the Premier League prediction show for match day 6. As I said, we start our weekend off with a Saturday early fixture at the G-Tech. Brentford play host to Manchester United. A very, very much banana skin for Manchester United here. Brentford obviously were quite poor and quite wasteful, riddled with mistakes in their 3-1 loss last time out to Fulham. I think in this game here, you need to be much better at the back. Van den Berg, Collins, Pinnock, they were all really, really subpar. As I said, mistake riddle was the key word for them on the weekend. And at the back, they looked all at sea. They need to be much better versus Manchester United. Because we know Man United create a lot of chances. The most shots created in the Premier League, the highest XG created in the Premier League. So those two at the back have to be much better than what we saw last time out. And I think for them, it's about managing moments. Brentford are very, very good at the G-Tech. They can get quite aggressive and on the front foot. It's about finding that balance because Manchester United, we know in possession, can give the ball away and look vulnerable in transition. And that's when you get that speed in behind with the likes of Kevin Schade to get the better of this Manchester United side, who got back to winning ways, a 2-1 win in an awful sort of scrappy game come the second half versus Chelsea. Once again, the focus goes into midfield. No Casemiro, Manuel Ugarte alongside Bruno Fernandes. Can they control the momentum and the flow of this game? That is going to be undoubtedly the biggest question. If United can control that midfield battle like they were able to do against 10-man Chelsea, you see how well United can play. But I just think this United side is just too vulnerable midfield to consistently get results. United need the first goal. Said it last week, and I'll say it once again. That first goal was so massive for Manchester United because all of a sudden you can focus up on structure and be a little bit more solid defensively. If you're going to chase a goal after trailing, I think United become too vulnerable at the back and too leaky. This game for me has got a draw written all over it. I've gone a 2-2 draw. Both defences not at their best. Attacks on top. As such, we get a bit of a Premier League classic here with a 2-2 draw at the G-Tech. We remain in London for Chelsea and Brighton in our next Saturday afternoon fixture. A massive bounce-back game there for Chelsea. A 2-1 loss at Old Trafford last time out. Questions about Enzo Maresca's managerial control of that game there. And questions about Chelsea's performances. Mistake riddled again from Chelsea. Robert Sanchez, the biggest of all, getting sent off and sending them to 10 men. Look, in this game here, we need to see the Chelsea of their peak, which for me comes from the wide spaces. Estevao alongside Pedro Neto. They are these assertive, dynamic and aggressive wingers that can take over a game of football and can swing it well and surely in the favour of the Blues here. So look to those two to be the catalyst to springboard this Chelsea side into action in this game versus a very, very strong Brighton side. And I think for Chelsea, assertive is the word here for me. They need to be much more aggressive with their possession, take the game on rather than being too safe, too sideways, and almost too Arsenal-like in many regards. Take the game on, look to the wide spaces, get to the bar line and get balls into the area because João Pedro, Enzo Fernandez are going to benefit from balls in and around the box there. Looking at the Seagulls, they dropped points last time out at home, a 2-2 draw late on there versus Tottenham Hotspur. Once again, though, their attacking players have looked very, very good in recent weeks. For me, the focus goes on Jorginho Rutter, who plays sort of century in behind Danny Welbeck there. We know the Chelsea backline has vulnerabilities, has mistakes in their game. I think Rutter has to go and exploit that. And in particular, with help from the wide spacer like Matomo Minter, there's a real chance here to get at this Chelsea backline, who have seen more mistakes in recent weeks, that do look a little bit underdone or just, fatigued from the back of that Club World Cup So look, there's a real chance here for Brighton to get at this Chelsea side, and I think it comes down to those attackers being in tip-top form. I think it's going to be a tough game for Chelsea, but I think they bounce back in the end. I've gone with the Chelsea 3-1 win here over Brighton. Brighton will make it difficult early on, but once the first goes in for Chelsea, I see them running away with it. Our third game in London sees Crystal Palace play host to Liverpool, a repeat of the Community Shield final, and boys, it's going to be a massive game. Palace, off the back of another impressive away performance, a 2-1 win at the London Stadium to beat West Ham. Defence has been their calling card this season, and it will once again here versus Liverpool. We know how good that Liverpool front line is, but we know they've been vulnerable with teams who sat in a low block. Mark Guehi, Maxence Lacroix, alongside Chris Richards, have been heroic for Crystal Palace across the last 18 months. We know all the stats with how many clean sheets they've kept and the amount of wins they've gotten as a result of that. They remain unbeaten this season in the Premier League, and I think they'll come into this game here with a lot of confidence in front of the Selhurst Park crowd. Keep a clean sheet, keep it compact, and hit Liverpool on the break. Ismail Assar, Daichi Kamada, Jean-Philippe Mateta will be keen to get in transition and get at this Liverpool back line, especially with the likes of Frimpong and Kirkes, who commit so high up the pitch. There's a real chance here for Mateta to get one-on-one with Van Dijk and find the back of the net. So big focus Crystal Palace, keep it compact and stay in that low block here. Versus the Liverpool side, who still haven't hit their top straps yet this season. A 2-1 win versus Everton last time out in the Premier League. Again, yet to really blow a team out this season. The biggest margin, that 4-2 win in the opening day versus Bournemouth. I think this game's going to be all about Alexander Isak. He'll get the start with Ekitike picking up a red card midweek in the Carabao Cup. Can the Swedish centre forward make this game about him? Can he take this game over and prove to be the pivotal figure in this game? Because for Liverpool and for Crystal Palace equally so, both teams will come to this game, Liverpool wanting to attack and Palace looking to defend. If Liverpool score the first goal, that's massive. Palace have to come out and attack, and it opens up spaces to go and score more. But it's so important that first goal's found by the Reds, and that will be down to Alexander Isak and his danger in and around that box there. So look to him to be the catalyst to make this game all about Liverpool. For me, I think the Reds get over the line, but once again, I think it's one of those tight games where it could be a late goal to the side this match. I've gone with Liverpool 2-1 win once again as they get over the line versus a very, very tough Crystal Palace side. We move further up north for Leeds and Bournemouth next. Leeds, a fantastic 3-1 win last time out versus Wolves away from home. It was all down to Anton Stack and Sean Longstaff in midfield. And once again, those two seem to be the catalyst for the best performances and the best results this season for Leeds. So look to those two in midfield to make it a scrap, make it ugly, and trying to force Bournemouth and their possession style of football to become quite broken up and quite disjointed. That'll go a long way for Leeds, being competitive in this game and forcing Bournemouth away from what they normally like to do, which is possess the football. And they did that a lot last time out in their previous game, a 0-0 draw at home versus Newcastle United. A point I think that Andoni Iraola started to be frustrated they couldn't get more out of that game. It was all down to struggles in terms of chance creation in the final third. And as such, in this game here, I'm looking to Tavernier, who's been playing centrally this season in behind Evan Nielsen. He needs to be much better. I think he was quite off it last time out and was quite off it the game before that. Bournemouth's best football revolves around possession, but it revolves around chance creation. And outside of the opening 15 minutes, they barely fired a shot versus that Newcastle side. It was down to not enough chance creation from the number 10. So if they want to be successful versus a very, very robust and a very, very compact Leeds backline, they need a number 10 that can split the line. So Tavernier is going to be massive. I think it's a case of defence versus attack, fire versus ice in this game here. And I think they cancel each other out. I've gone with a 1-1 draw between these two clubs. Bournemouth's just not enough in the final third to get the better of this Leeds United backline. We're off to the Etihad for City and Burnley. Man City last time out, unfortunate not to pick up all 3 points versus Arsenal. Wasn't their best performance, but they were resilient at the back. They showed character. They fought all the way through that game there. And for a team that looks really, really good this season, but far from their best, it was a really, really positive sign to see them be much better defensively, because that has been their problem this season. And it could be a problem this game here versus Burnley. I think for them, obviously, the key is going to be the Norwegian man up top in Erling Haaland to find the back of the net to be the difference maker versus a low block. But they've got to be careful of Burnley hitting them on the counter-attack and in transition, because that has been their Achilles heel now for almost 2 seasons, being caught out in transition and conceding goals on the break. Looking at Burnley, another impressive point at home, 1-1 versus Nottingham Forest. Look, to be honest, they've played some of the better football in patches, and they have showed against the big teams like Manchester United and like Liverpool, and then Nottingham Forest at home. They can compete against these big sides with and without the football. I looked at skipper Josh Cullen and Luis in front of that back five to stay compact, stay narrow, and limit chances for Manchester City by keeping them at arm's length. That will go a long way for Burnley to be competitive in this game here. And I think their game plan is to keep this game 0-0 as long as possible. And then the likes of Jadon Anthony and co up top can try and hit in transition and hit Man City on the break. Do I see Burnley having a chance? Yes, but I don't see them having much of a chance, especially with the form of Foden and Erling Haaland up top for Manchester City. As such, I've got a City 3-0 win here at home and getting them back on track in the Premier League. A massive game at the City ground as Nottingham Forest play host to Sunderland. Last time out, Forest, as I said, a 1-1 draw versus Burnley. They followed it up with a 2-2 draw midweek away at Real Betis. They need to get back on track. Ange Postecoglou needs his side to be much more clinical in front of goal and much more dangerous in possession. And for me, that comes down to getting the ball through the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White alongside Elliot Anderson. Because when the ball goes through these two players, great things happen. They are just a catalyst for great attacking movements, for dangerous plays, to beat presses like what Sunderland will often implement. I think that's massive for Nottingham Forest. Can you play through those moments and parts of games where Sunderland get at the opposition, where they press high up the pitch, where they're physical, where they're in your face? Because Sunderland go from high pressing to low block, high pressing to low block, and they manage that very, very well throughout games. So it's about how Nottingham Forest go about playing through that, and as such, those midfield combinations are going to be very, very important to that. Looking at Sunderland, a 1-1 draw, hard-fought draw last time at home versus Villa, despite going down to 10 men, once again showing a lot of character, showing ability to play without the football, and then showing an ability to, when they had the chance to go forward, be deadly. They hit the post, had a couple close chances, Emi Martinez having to make a save, and then once again, Wilson Isidore was the man. I look to him yet again. He's been clinical, he's been dangerous, in particular at home. Can he do it away here at the City ground? Because if he can, I give Sunderland a big, big chance in this game here. For me, it's all about their ability to hit Nottingham Forest in transition. They are vulnerable to giving the ball away when they're possessing the football. That's where Sunderland can hit them and get them on the break. The likes of Mayenda, the likes of Isidore, the likes of Enzo Lefebvre. That's when they can be at their best. And that's why I see Sunderland winning this game of football. I think Nottingham Forest are not good enough right now in the final third. And as such, Sunderland get a 2-1 win, a massive win away from home at the City ground. We shift our focus back to London and Tottenham Hotspur versus Wolves. Last time out, Spurs picked up a handy point away at the Amex, a 2-2 draw. These days is a really good result down south there against Brighton, but they want to get back to winning ways, and what a chance it is against one of the worst sides in the division in Wolves. I look to this game here. Wolves have a very, very vulnerable backline, a leaky defence. So Xavi Simons alongside Richarlison and Mohamed Kudus as that sort of front three are going to be the catalyst. They're going to be the focus points. They're going to have the ball going through these three players if they want to be successful. And I think if they get a quick start, they start playing through the lines, they play aggressive, front-footed, relentless attacking football, they can have this game won by half-time. I think for Spurs this season, they've had a great balance between attack and defence. In a game here versus Wolves that are so vulnerable, I think you go all out from the start, get at them, put them under pressure, and the floodgates will well and truly open for me. Looking at Wolves, there was a new low last time out. 3-1 loss at home versus a relegation candidate in Leeds. They even scored the first goal and then conceded the ship 3 in that first half. And it's all been a problem defensively. The back 5 or back 4 at times have not been good enough for me. I'm looking at Krejci, I'm looking at João Gomez as the two holding midfielders to protect that back 5. Sit in as deep as you can. Be as physical as you can to stop the Tottenham ball movement, because if Tottenham start moving that ball swiftly in and out, in between lines, I just don't see Wolves having any sort of chance in this game here. An early goal will be massive, similar to last week versus Leeds, giving them something to hold on to. But for Leeds, it's about keeping a clean sheet for as long as you possibly can. This Tottenham side will come out ruthless, they'll come out aggressive, and for Wolves, it's about keeping a clean sheet for as long as possible to make this game some sort of match-up, because at the current point in time, I just see Spurs running riot. I've got them winning this game 4-0. Wolves not good enough defensively. Spurs having that real killer edge right now in the Premier League. And I think as such, it's going to be all a one-way affair here. It's a massive clash at Villa Park as Aston Villa play host to Fulham. Aston Villa, it is real struggle town right now in all competitions, struggling for goals, conceding poor goals as well. Both ends of the park, it's totally off. A 1-1 draw last time out away at the Stadium of Light, despite having a man advantage for large portions of that game. It has really just been, for me, the front line, the front four have been nowhere near it. And Buendia has had moments, Rodgers has had some moments, Watkins has had little patches, but for me, Gessan's been the most impressive forward player, playing off the right, playing down the middle at times. I'm looking to him. Can you just give us something in the final 30 for Aston Villa to try and instill some sort of belief, some sort of spark in that final third right now, because it is so blunt, it is so slow, it's lacking creativity, and it's lacking freedom. I think freedom for me is the key word. Let these players play, because naturally they are very talented. They are flair-type players. I think Unai Emery scrapped the system book, scrap the ideas, and just let these players play, because you finally might see something happen. Rodgers has looked a shadow of himself. Watkins has been starved of chances. Buendia has tried. Gesson has tried. But they just have looked shadows of themselves. I think if you go out there and just play free-flowing football, ping-pong, basketball style, up and down the pitch, you might get yourself a result, because we know how good Fulham's backline is. If you play this structured system right now that seems to be tensing up the players, I just don't see any avenue to go right now for Aston Villa. If it's going to be anyone, it's going to be Gesson for me. Looking at Fulham, they put away a mistake-riddled Brentford last time out, 3-1 there. A massive win for the side at home. In this game here, I looked at similar players once again. Alex Iwobi was fantastic last time out. Once again, the star man leading in the front line there with a goal and an assist. Then I look to the young man, Josh King, who made a mistake in the first half, but bounced back in the second half, carrying the football, works really well in tight spaces, and I think could be the man to split apart this Aston Villa backline, which hasn't looked that great either. They have had mistakes in their game, this Aston Villa backline. So Josh King and Alex Iwobi could prove to be way too dangerous for Aston Villa to handle. I think for me, for Fulham, it's built on your defence. Joachim Andersen and Calvin Bassey at the back. You keep that tight. You keep that as your backbone. That's your building block. And from there, you go and play football. And I think you get a positive result here. I think Aston Villa do score once again, but I can't see them winning this game of football. Fulham right now are just too good, too solid defensively. As such, a 1-1 draw here at Villa Park for me. The next game is the big one coming on Sunday. We're up north for Newcastle and Arsenal. Newcastle last time out, a 0-0 draw away at Bournemouth. It was a scrappy old game. They went to that 5-back, but a positive of it, they've looked very solid this season with that 5-back in place. The negative, they've really struggled to progress the ball forward, play through lines, and really look a threat in the final third. As such, I looked at Sandro Tonali in this game here. He was the big leadership figure in the park last week versus Bournemouth. Bournemouth started like a house on fire. They slowly fizzled out. But when Newcastle were creating their chances and looking much more dangerous on the football, there was one man that was centred to it all. It was Sandro Tonali. He was the cog. He got Newcastle playing some great football, turning the side over, playing with a bit more flair, a bit more speed in their play. And look, I expect them to play the 5-back yet again here to shut down this Arsenal side. So it's going to be down to him to try and win that ball back and drive Newcastle forward. And I think he is the type of player and the type of character to stand up in a big game like this and make it about him and get his side over the line. So look to Sandro Tonali, the Italian stallion in midfield, to make things happen here versus Arsenal, who also picked up a point last time out. They'll be disappointed they couldn't pick up all 3 points with a 1-1 draw at home versus Manchester City. It doesn't get much easier for them. Home versus City, away versus Newcastle. Tough place to go and play football. But in the past, they've showed enough character to get the 3 points and get a positive result. In the last game, they were better, but once again, the highlight on Arsenal once again is them being too slow, them being too stagnant in and around the final third, too much sideways possession. Eze and Madueke is your antidote to that. They are very flair-type players. They are X-factor players, and if they get the ability to take over this game and play aggressive and play direct, like we saw versus Nottingham Forest a couple of weeks ago, Arsenal can get a run on. I think it's so important for the Gunners to get that first goal in the first half, to instill the confidence in the side, to allow themselves to express themselves and play free in the final third. Because when Arsenal start playing with more freedom and less rigidity and less playing for corners and throws, that's when they look at their best. They're playing one touch, two touch stuff, playing with some speed, injecting some pace in the final third, and Eze Madueke can do that. It's about passing with purpose for me for Arsenal this weekend. Newcastle will set up with a low block. They'll set up to keep a clean sheet. Arsenal, you've got to find a way to break them down. That's going to be the key to this game here. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be ugly at times. And as such, I can't see many goals happening in this game here. I've gone with a 1-1 draw for the Geordies at home. They'll take the point. Once again, Arsenal being, I guess, frustrated by another team playing in a low block. The final game of this match week sees Everton play host to West Ham United. Everton on the weekend frustrated in a 2-1 loss away at Liverpool. Another solid performance of David Moyes' side, but not at their best. I think for the last few weeks, they've not been at that tip-top best, which we saw from the first 3 match weeks. I look once again to that dynamic duo. Njai alongside Jack Grealish in the wide spaces. Those two are superstars on their day. They can light a game up and they can tear a game apart. And West Ham right now are such a vulnerable side. They can be got at when they turn the ball over. They can be got at when they're defending a low block. They can be got at from set pieces as well. And as such, Njai and Grealish will be central to all things going forward at Everton. And as such, will be central to Everton getting this result here for me. I think it's about playing vibrant attacking football. Get at this West Ham side because we know those floodgates, they're very weak. They can open really easily. And once one goes in, often more are to come. So for Everton, be on the front foot, be aggressive, and get into the faces of this West Ham side, who lost once again. Another loss this season, that 2-1 home loss to Palace. They need a massive game for me from James Ward-Prowse in midfield, because you've got Fernandes, you've got Paqueta, you've got Bowen and Somerville, a lot of attacking players in and around him. James Ward-Prowse is the one out there protecting that back four, protecting that back line, and also possessing the football. He's one of the few players in this West Ham side that can receive it back to goal and turn and play on the half turn, play in the tight spaces, play out of trouble. So a massive game required for him to keep West Ham in this game, because we know the speed that Everton play with. We know the physicality they play with. We know they can win the ball back in midfield areas and break the game up. So Ward-Prowse has to be at his very, very best. And I think for West Ham, it's the importance to win the battles in the wide spaces. Grealish and Jai are so good out there. West Ham's fullbacks, West Ham's wingers have to come back and support and protect that back line, because if they lose the battles in the wide spaces, West Ham, they have no chance in this game here for me. Look, I don't think both back lines have been that impressive this season. They look vulnerable and weak at times. As such, I see a high-scoring game, and I see it in favour of the Toffees. Gone with Everton 3-2 win here at home to further condemn West Ham's start of the season and potentially lead to the sacking of Graham Potter. There you go, ladies and gents. That brings my Premier League predictions to an end for match day 6. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What are your predictions? What are your thoughts on my predictions? Who are some of the key players and the key games coming from this weekend's action? If you enjoyed the video, guys, make sure to like it, subscribe to the Players on the channel, and press that post notification bell so you know we upload videos, podcasts, and reaction content here on the channel. With that being said, hope you have a great day. Enjoy the weekend's football action, and I'll see you guys on another video or podcast very, very soon. Till next time, guys. See you later.